Deshaun Watson is cooked and he needs to be benched. It's time to put in Jameis Winston. I have seen enough. Deshaun Watson in the past for the Houston Texans was regarded as one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. That Deshaun Watson no longer exists. I understand the Cleveland Browns are dealing with a lot of injuries, especially to the offensive line. Jack Conklin was able to come back in today against the Philadelphia Eagles and play, and he did look solid at times, but he's still a bit rusty. I will say this, Joe Flacco last season looked better in that short sample size than Deshaun Watson has looked so far for the Cleveland Browns this season alone. I understand what he was able to do last season, especially in the second half against the Baltimore Ravens before he got injured. But I believe that this is a quarterback that has missed a lot of time due to a suspension because of things that happened off the field. He missed a lot of time dealing with that shoulder surgery he had to have last season. And he missed an entire season because of a holdout with the Houston Texans. The game is passing by. He's not a good starting quarterback anymore. As a backup, he will look fine. And I understand that he is one of the highest paid players in the NFL. He has a fully guaranteed contract. At some point, you have to say, damn that contract and see what you have with this roster. Now, it's not all on Deshaun Watson because this is one of the worst offensive lines in the NFL from tackle to tackle. They can't block anyone, but they're not 100%. They cannot effectively go out there and run the football either. Jerome Ford left today's game against the Eagles. He was dealing with an injury. They're hoping that when Nick Chubb comes back, the run game can get them over the top. But I will say this right here. This will go down as one of, if not the worst trade in NFL history. They traded all that draft capital to bring in Deshaun Watson. And not only just that, they have made a trade to go out there and get their top 3 wide receivers in the last 3 off seasons, from Amari Cooper to Elijah Moore to Jerry Jeudy. This team cannot catch the football either. They can't block. You have a quarterback that cannot throw, especially deep down the field. Deshaun Watson never had top arm strength even entering the NFL. Even when he was a top quarterback for Houston, he was not known for his arm strength. He was known for his accuracy and his ability to get inside and outside the pocket and make special throws. But even as a Deshaun Watson fan and a Clemson fan, I can tell you right now, this man will never be the same on the field. It's not going to happen. This entire situation may be the worst situation in the NFL. You can compare it to the Carolina Panthers, but when you look at it, they owe Deshaun Watson all this money for the next 2 years. If they cut him after this season, it will be one of the biggest cap hits in NFL history. Ownership has a tight chokehold right now on what Kevin Stefanski can and cannot do with this roster. We have to be real here. If Deshaun Watson was not getting paid as much as he's getting paid right now, they would have benched him in game 3. And like I mentioned before, I'm not trying to place all this blame on Deshaun Watson, but most Cleveland Brown fans are going to point their finger at this man because they gave up numerous first-round picks and more picks on top of that, and they made him the highest paid quarterback in the NFL at that time, and he gave him a fully guaranteed contract as well. This is on ownership. I can talk about how bad Kevin Stefanski has been as a play caller this season. He's doing his best to take the pressure off Deshaun Watson. You know, we're 6 games in this season, and he is yet to throw for 200 passing yards in this season. It is yet to happen. He's yet to have a 300-yard passing game with the Cleveland Browns. And even if Nick Chubb does come back, teams are going to load the box like they're starting to do right now. No one fears Deshaun Watson anymore because he's not the same player. We could talk about how the allegations hurt his confidence, all of that. I don't believe that's the case. I believe that him sitting out that last season with the Houston Texans and that injury that he suffered last season has taken a lot out of this man. He is clearly not the same player. And right now, I do believe that Jameis Winston is a better player. And I can tell you why. Joe Flacco is a gunslinger. He's going to let it rip deep down the field. Deshaun Watson isn't going to do that. Jameis Winston will. Now, a lot of interceptions will come with that. You can look at Deshaun Watson numbers and say the man has 5 passing touchdowns to 3 interceptions. That's not terrible. Not every interception is his fault. Like I mentioned before, Amari Cooper, you would think with a name like that he would be a top wide receiver in the NFL. He also is top of the league in terms of drops. He is one of the best route runners in the NFL. Can't catch the football. Jerry Jeudy wide open in the red zone. Can't catch the football. It is too many times this season to where those wide receivers dropping passes and Deshaun Watson has some time in the pocket. And when he does have time in the pocket, he just can't get the football there. He doesn't fit this system with Kevin Stefanski. And this is a quarterback-friendly system. We've seen Baker Mayfield have success in this system. We've seen Joe Flacco lead this team to the NFL playoffs last season off of this system as well. Yes, they lost to the Philadelphia Eagles 20-16. And you can say, hey, they only lost to the Eagles by 4 points. You'll be wrong. Myles Garrett blocked a field goal for one of their touchdowns. You take that away, this team doesn't even have over 10 points. The most points that they have scored this season was against the Jacksonville Jaguars. And that's one of the worst teams in the NFL. And they won that game 18-13. And Deshaun Watson did not play particularly well in that game either. Deshaun Watson was 22-34 for 186 passing yards, 0 passing touchdowns, 0 interceptions. They have problems besides Deshaun Watson, yes, but right now he's their biggest problem. And he does hold on to the football for too long. That was a knack on him in college. That was a knack on him with the Houston Texans. And Kevin Stefanski comes out and he immediately says, hey, we're not going to move on from Deshaun Watson. He's our guy. I understand wanting to keep the man confidence up, but his bank account keeps him confident every single day. So don't give me, well, his confidence is shot. His confidence is not shot because of the allegations. He is shot as a player because he cannot perform the same. And they have to deal with this for the next 2 years. The Cleveland Browns went from one of the most dangerous teams in this division because of how great their defense was last season, how amazing the run game was with Nick Chubb before he suffered that knee injury. And even before Deshaun Watson went against the Baltimore Ravens last season, Deshaun Watson still did not look particularly good. We go back to that Steelers game on Monday night where Nick Chubb got injured. He had a pick six and a fumble for 6 as well. Now, the pick six was not entirely his fault. The tight end pulled up. Alex Highsmith comes out of nowhere, goes for a pick six, and he fumbled for 6. So Deshaun Watson is holding this team back. Let's just call it for what it is. And he's going to get Kevin Stefanski fired. I can see the ownership basically trying to go out there and place blame on Kevin Stefanski. And they're going to get him out of there. And they're going to move on from Kevin Stefanski, and they're going to have the same problem with Deshaun Watson. The reason why this hurts so much if you are a Cleveland Browns fan is because you have seen this team have success. And you can go back and you can look at Baker Mayfield right now and say, man, he's balling with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But even if you moved on from Baker Mayfield and you brought in a different quarterback besides Deshaun Watson, I do believe that they will be in a better situation. You shouldn't have gave him a fully guaranteed contract. And I hope that teams learn from this moving forward. The Denver Broncos made the same mistake with Russell Wilson. They paid him all of the money before he took a single snap. And what is so damning about this situation is this. You went out there, you made a trade to get a quarterback that had allegations and missed an entire season. You were that desperate for a franchise quarterback that you brought this guy in. And Deshaun Watson walks in and he has nothing to prove because he has that contract. This is ridiculous. I think that you clean house with the front office. Unfortunately, you can't fire ownership, but they're the reason to blame right here. They are the same Cleveland Browns that they have been over the last decade plus. They'll have a good season here. They'll have a good season there. Then they fall completely off the map. They have too much talent to be in this situation. With Elijah Moore, Jerry Jeudy, Amari Cooper, David Njoku, I understand that he's been out of the lineup dealing with injuries. But you have one of the best defensive players in the NFL in Myles Garrett. You have Zadarius Smith. You have a very good secondary. You have a very good defense. I like Jim Schwartz. It's not the same defense that it was from last season because that defense last season, they're flying all over the field. And they dealt with injuries last season. That also makes me scratch my head when people say go out there and fire Kevin Stefanski, get rid of Kevin Stefanski. Look at what he was able to do last season. No Nick Chubb. His 2 top tackles are injured. He's down to his 3rd string at the tackle position. He's down to a quarterback that he called off of his couch. He comes in, makes the NFL playoff with that roster. He fired the defensive coordinator that held the team back a couple of years ago. He brings in Jim Schwartz, and they make the NFL playoffs. They've made the NFL playoffs twice in the last couple of years. They went out there and they defeated the Steelers with Baker Mayfield. Ultimately, they would lose against the Kansas City Chiefs. But that was still a good showing for a franchise. Let's just be real here. That's one of the worst franchises in the NFL historically. So I do not want to see Kevin Stefanski go. His play calling is not the best for Deshaun Watson because Deshaun Watson does not fit this system. And if Kevin Stefanski, was all in on Deshaun Watson as well, and this is how he's coaching him up, hell, he deserves to be fired for that. Because why would you bring in a quarterback that does not fit your system? Jameis Winston really fits his system. Play action bootlegs and curls. And I'm not saying that Jameis Winston can come in and he can save the day. He has his own flaws. That's why he has been a backup in the NFL since his stint with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers ended. But we've seen Jameis Winston with Sean Payton. He looked competent from week to week. With the weapons that they have in this system, he should be okay. I like what the Cleveland Browns have, talent-wise. Yes, they have too many drops. When they're fully healthy on the offensive line, we've seen them perform very well over the last couple of years, just this season right here. But it's not because all of the offensive linemen are terrible. Deshaun Watson sits back there and he passes the football. And a lot of mainstream analysts forgot that. That's part of the reason with the Houston Texans they'll make Bill O'Brien scratch his head, and that's what pissed him off the most. But he still was a franchise quarterback. We just looked past it because he was able to go outside the pocket and make crazy throw and make crazy plays. But that's not winning football. That last season, 33 passing touchdowns and 7 interceptions, that's not winning football. And quarterbacks are not doing that in today's NFL because defenses have made a comeback in the last 2 to 3 years. Deshaun Watson is cooked. And the Cleveland Browns as a whole, they're cooked as well because they're sticking with him moving forward. This team is 1-5. They can't beat anyone. You beat a bad Jacksonville Jaguars team that can't play defense and you only scored 18 points. You have a quarterback that is not good, has a noodle arm, cannot hit wide receivers on target. You have wide receivers that can't catch the football at times. You have an offensive line that's not the biggest fan of their franchise quarterback. Go back and look at that Cleveland Browns game. He's trying to help offensive linemen up. They're not going for it. But as soon as a running back comes and he wants to help him up, they let the running back help him up. They're not the biggest fan of Deshaun Watson in the locker room. You could tell on the sideline. Look at how frustrated they were against the Las Vegas Raiders. And yes, he'll have some big plays to Amari Cooper that gets called back like what happened in the Raiders game. Trust me, I've seen every single Cleveland Browns game up to this point this season. I've seen every Cleveland Browns game with Deshaun Watson and with Baker Mayfield as well. They're right back in quarterback hell, where this team has been for many decades. But just let me know in the comment section below, whose fault is this? Is this mostly on Deshaun Watson? Is this on Kevin Stefanski? Or is this on ownership? If you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button. If you like the video, hit the like button. Most importantly, want each and every last one of you guys stay safe, stay positive. Thanks for watching the video, guys. God bless. Peace.